You're about to enjoy a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands.
Have you ever felt that you as a woman may not appear to measure up when you see incredible women in strong roles? You may be surprised when hearing from women in these positions and how we all share many of the same challenges. Thank you for joining us for the CEO Leading In podcast with Rebecca Jones as we share the journeys of women.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Jones, your host of CEO. We are on an exploration together to discover more about the personal journeys of incredible women in both career and life. We all have paths to share that sometimes take incredible turns, deep resilience, and courage to navigate. My hopes are that the challenges shared here encourage women to take leaps of faith and growth when a journey feels too difficult or unachievable. There is great strength deep within each one of us. These stories are meant to share the ways strong women have taken their dreams to strive and thrive to new heights despite their sometimes rocky paths and found a way to lead in. So this morning we have Alejandra Castillo, the CEO of YWCA, that is about eliminating racism and empowerment of women. I love that. And so about 2.3 million women and girls are every year involved in this around our country, being served. And so, Alejandra, would you like to talk a little bit about what you do every day with us?
So thank you so much. Very excited to have this discussion and this conversation, which we must have. You know, no one, I think, has a straight line to their journey. It's always meandering. It has a lot of different players, I'm sure, in the way. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to you and with you and all the different listeners. So a couple of things. You know, YWCA, not to be confused with any other organization, is the oldest women's organization in the nation. We were founded in 1858. And so much of our DNA is really about women and how do we open opportunities and create opportunities when sometimes they don't exist. So just part of our journey, we marched for the 8-hour workday, which today feels like, what was that all about? We also created the first women's employment center because women were coming from both Europe and other places around the world, but also from rural areas to urban areas. And we had to make sure that they weren't taken advantage of. And most importantly, that they were given opportunities in the workplace. But today, 162 years later, we still stand at the forefront of some of the most critical issues defining the lives of women and communities of color. Our mission statement, as you said so beautifully, eliminating racism and empowering women, is not a new mission statement. It's actually a mission statement that we've been committed to for a very long time. We were the first racially integrated women's organization in the country. So that says a lot, right? That says a lot. And in this moment in time, our mission is tested even more. So we have 202 YWCAs across the country serving 1,300 communities, and we do it every single day. COVID was a big test for us. We didn't close our doors. We actually increased our services in so many different ways, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute. But, you know, it's an organization that, as the CEO, I have to deal with everything from trademark issues of programs, issues of dealing with donors, marketing and branding, protecting our reputation as one of those very valid, vocal organizations. So there's a lot here, and I'm looking forward to teasing out some of these issues.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you more about it. I had no idea that you had such a large reach. 1,300 locations or communities that you're reaching.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, okay, we're going to go a little bit off of your career path, and I'd like to hear just a short little story about something fun from your childhood that people may not know about you.
Yeah. So, I grew up in New York City. I'm the daughter of immigrant parents that came from the Dominican Republic, and my parents fled the DR because of dictatorship. And they came to the U.S. with this hunger for democracy and a hunger for opportunities, and really embracing what the U.S. is all about. But I had these. We lived in an apartment in Corona, Queens, New York, and we'll talk about Corona in a minute. But we lived above another apartment, and there were two individuals, Mr. and Mrs. Stanley. And in New York City kind of way, hot summers, you would go outside and bring out a folding chair and just sit there. But Mr. and Mrs. Stanley were very important in my life because I recall distinctly asking them, "What is a cabinet?" Referring to the cabinet, the president's cabinet. I must have been like 9. And they explained to me what a cabinet was and how a cabinet helps the president make decisions. And I will confess to you, at 9 years old, Washington was already on my mind. And I've been very fortunate to serve 2 presidents, to be able to work with cabinet members. And you never know how you're going to help or shape a child's life. So the fact that they explained to me what that meant, that they piqued my interest, really shaped who I am today. My apologies for the phone.
No, that's okay. It's life, right?
It's life under COVID. Absolutely.
That's right. So what is one word that describes you best, do you think?
Relentless. Some people call it hard-headed. I call it relentless. You need a little bit of just being relentless. When people say no, when they can't imagine what you're telling them, when they can't even fathom the potentiality of what it looks like, I'm relentless because I know and I see what I can accomplish. And sometimes it's welcome. Sometimes people push back, but that's part of being relentless.
Well, I think that's a very important leadership quality. I personally call it, tenacity. I've been called tenacious so many different times in my life, and I think that is really important for, especially as women, because when someone tells me no, I say, really? Well, I'm going to show you how it's actually going to be yes. So I love that about you. So how long have you been doing what you're doing? And is this your first career? Because a lot of times I think now people are evolving and changing and shifting. I think it's very different than when we were kids and our parents were growing up. So tell me about that.
So I will use a metaphor. I like the metaphor of the butterfly to describe my career. And primarily because of the process of metamorphosis, right? I really believe that as women, we're in constant change and we're always reinventing ourselves. And this is not my first career. This is probably my 5th career. I've had various iterations. I've worked in so many different settings in various capacities. I went to law school as like my 3rd career. I went to law school a little later in life, when I was 30. And I joke around that I went to law school after serving at the Clinton White House to get some sanity, which always generates a chuckle because nobody goes to law school for sanity. But the point of it is, having worked in policy, law enforcement policy, drug control, drug interdiction policy, I pivoted to becoming a lawyer, working in issues of FCPA, working in family court. So at this moment in time, being CEO of YWCA is like my 5th career. But every step of the way gave me a new tool for my toolbox to be able to do this work. So I think that's the takeaway, that no matter how your career meanders, how many ways you slice it and dice it or reinvent yourself, it is always, there's something that you take away and you bring into that new phase. So I'm in the butterfly stage right now because I've announced that I'm stepping down from YWCA, but it's only because I am itching for that next chapter and I'm almost giddy about it. So it's exciting.
That is exciting. You know what? I think that's an important thing to share with young people too. I always tell them, try things that are a little bit tough for you, that you're not extremely comfortable with at first. Nothing, of course, not safe. But, try things that really push you to grow and evolve, because it's true. I mean, I personally used to be terrified of public speaking. I would get up in front of a room and feel like I'm going to cry and pass out from fear. However, that's one of the things that I have conquered, and now it doesn't feel like that any longer. And so I love that you have pushed yourself. I don't know if you're going to share with us what your next step is, or if you know what that is. But if you, we would love to hear if you would like to.
Well, what's exciting is, Rebecca, is that it's like being a little bit of a mad scientist. So I'm in that mad scientist phase where I have some really incredible opportunities, among them doing a series of podcasts, writing a book, considering joining the Biden administration. So right now it's like everything's on the table, but I'm taking a moment not to rush, and which I hope I can leave your listeners with this. It's taking a moment to give myself enough grace to say, okay, what do I want this phase of my life to be? How do I want to move the needle in society? What is it that I need to grow myself as an individual and as a professional? Because it's very tempting to go back and do the same thing, and society kind of pushes you that way. But this is a golden opportunity. Like, if I could, I would love to be, a cyber expert, because I think that so much is happening. If I could, I'd love to be an architect, but within the realm of possibilities, I just want to make sure that the next phase really takes all of my skills and does something magical with it.
I'm pretty sure that's going to happen based on your passion. And I do love the things that you're passionate about. They're important to me too. Especially, I tell also, I'm involved with a group at the San Marcos Boys and Girls Club. I talk to them and I say, one of the most important things I think as a woman is to push other women to achieve their dreams and encourage them, because I think it just is so different coming from a sister rather than a man. I don't know. There's something about it for me. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it's true. And I also will say we need allies. We need allies. Yes. My best mentors and sponsors are women who have really been trailblazers in so many ways. But I will also tell you that I've had incredible men who have supported me, because I can go toe to toe, right? And it's in that intellectual debate. So I would say absolutely, as women, we must. There is no negotiation here. We must support one another, pave the road for others. But we also need to have allies, because, that glass ceiling, as you can attest, I'm sure, sometimes feel daunting. Like, how will I ever not only shatter? I don't want to shatter it anymore. I want to do away with it completely. And that will take an effort of changing systems. There is a gender equity, systemic barriers that we have to address, pay equity, paid leave, issues that are impact us on so many levels. But you're absolutely right. It's that sisterhood that is critical.
Absolutely. So how do you personally measure success?
That's a great question. So one could argue, do you measure success by the titles you've received, by the salary that you've reached? I don't measure success that way. That's wonderful. It's a validation that I'm doing the work I love. But here's how I measure success. I raised 2 nieces. I became a mom of preteens, and let me tell you, that was the hardest thing in my entire life, because I didn't get the chance of the cuddly baby. I just went straight to preteen. So it was the most defining aspect of my life and my career, because I had to make choices, make choices of, do I take this meeting or do I go to my niece's, field hockey game? It was also making choices of, what if I profess to want to change the world, how am I changing the world within my own family, right? And those were hard decisions, but now I have two incredible nieces who are giving me advice on so many levels, from wardrobes to technology. But that was success. That was one element of success. And then the other element of success is, how do you take on an organization like YWCA, lead it, but most importantly, strengthen it so that you can pass on the baton to the next person? Because that's what leadership is about. Even when you know that the success may not accrue to you, you are willing and able to plant the seeds that will blossom for maybe somebody else. But at the end of the day, it's what's in the best, always having what's in the best interest of the organization and the mission. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, taking on two preteens, oh my gosh, that is incredible. Being a mom, my daughter is 20. I know exactly how hard that is, and especially girls, because they're at that point where they're really trying to figure out who they are. Boys do too, to some extent, but I think girls feel that we have more to prove, maybe. So I commend you in that, and that's really great.
Well, and I'm sure you now are the beneficiary. You know, when they're teenagers, it's like it's so hard, but they come around. Now after they reach like 23 and over, they actually become your friends. You never thought about it that way, but they actually become wonderful friends, and they're now my mentors, because I always say, for women in our careers and in our age group, we need millennial mentors. We definitely need millennial mentors.
Well, absolutely, because they help us do our job better, life better, because I think the more outside influences we have really shaping ourselves, because we really are ever evolving. Back to your metaphor of the butterfly, I think that's a really important part of growing and moving forward in life, and just who you become. Because I personally I want to learn something new. I tell my friends, I want to learn something new every single day. And that may be from someone that's older than me, someone that's the same age as me. But oftentimes I think it's people that are younger than me, because they have a different perspective. And I think that's really important. So as a female leader, what do you think is the most significant barrier in your career?
It's fascinating. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately is social capital. When you come into jobs, and you see that your counterparts, most of them male, in my case, not many people of color, you look at the social capital that they come with already baked in to their persona and to how they can leverage. And I've been I've taken some time to say, how do we build our social capital? How do we build those connections? You know, how do I build a connection with the CEO of, I don't know, any Fortune 500 company to be able to raise money for my organization? Because I did come into YWCA with that handicap, but you overcome it, because as women, first of all, we're great connectors. We know how to connect the dots. Second of all, our many skills, and I don't want to call them hard skills versus soft skills. I don't like that division. The skills that we have to connect with individuals, to drive how relentless or determined we are, really helps us overcome that. But I will tell you, it is a steep hill, because I'm not at the golf course, or in all of these different settings. I'll tell you a quick story, if I may. I have crashed the party at the World Economic Forum at Davos. I haven't been invited, but I said I'm going to go to Switzerland and just be in that space. And that decision generated so many opportunities, both from a fundraising side, from a marketing. It just opened up so many doors. Now, people said, "Oh, are you crazy? You don't have an invitation." But as they say in New York, you learn how to hustle. And being in places, even when you're not invited, is important, because we need to be in those rooms. As Hamilton says, we need to be in the room when it happens, right?
Well, I call
Hamilton
that
the
courage.
musical.
Yeah, no, I know. I call that courage. And I think there is some level of courage that we really need to step out of every single day or into. Maybe that's a better term for it. But so, I look at my life and I think about so many different things and all the lessons that I've learned. And, I'm wondering, what is a lesson that you have learned that you think that young women could, apply to their lives?
Yeah, the question that's always posed, what would you say to your younger self, right? And sometimes I say, I would tell younger women it's going to be okay. But today, when we see all of this confluence of so many different crises, COVID and the recession, national reckoning on racial justice, one thing I will definitely say is, what is your ethical compass? Where does it lie? Because that's going to determine, what are you willing to fight for? What are you willing to believe until, that last leg? And that I understand now at this moment in my life, that is really the fire in the belly that gives us. When you know what's important, and are you willing to die on the hill for it? That motivates me, and that always keeps you centered, because you will be pulled in many directions. You will be asked to make difficult decisions. And the younger that you can find what that compass looks like and how does it feel, and when you know you're off course, the happier you'll be, because you'll know what matters to you. So I'm sure this could be another podcast, but having that ethical and ethical compass, that you know where it is and how it moves, is very important.
And I think during COVID, don't you think that it's important also to remember not only where your moral compass is, but that all of the outside things, not to let those affect you, because it's so easy. I mean, every day, my job, you probably have it in your job too. A lot of people are angry and they want someone to hold responsible for it. I always try to remember, okay, listen, hurting people hurt. They're trying to hurt me, but really staying on that path and having your moral compass and following that path, I think it's probably more difficult now than ever. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I think, COVID for me at the individual level and even at the professional level gave me clarity. What's important? Why are we picking these petty fights? Where do we actually find our collective voice to move our country, our nation, right? The nation we all love, to a different moment in time of opportunity, of true democracy, of that voice. So COVID took the clutter out of the way. It gave me some clarity. Sometimes I was fighting things that weren't, and I was fighting in a way that was nonsensical. So it gave me a bit more grounding. And also it reminded me just the fragility of life. We become arrogant and think, oh, we're going to be here, I'm going to live another 30 years. Maybe not. And in the moments that you have left on this earth, what are you going to do about it? What do you want to be remembered for? So for me, it's given me kind of that existential question of, what do I want to be remembered for? And what am I going to do about it? So you're right. There's a lot of questions that still are swirling for many people, but we have to tone down the noise, because it'll help us understand what really means something in this world.
So that kind of leads me to my next question. That is, what are you most passionate about, and what are you most proud of in your career?
Several things, things. Here's what I'll say. My passion is policy, right? I've lived in Washington for 30 years. I love this city. I think it's a great city. It brings the incredible minds, people who may differ in their political stance, but at the end of the day, they really want to help our country. So, because I'm a policy person, that's where I put a lot of emphasis. And many of the things that I'm most proud about are quiet And I'll tell you one of them. When I was 27, I was working at the White House at the Office of National Drug Control Policy. And at that time, people may not remember, the mental health community was fighting with the drug treatment community because insurance companies were not covering it. And we fought to have both mental health and drug treatment covered under insurance policy, starting with the federal government. That set off an entire change in how insurance companies, healthcare insurance companies cover these issues, because families are hurting. So that is not in the big neon lights, but for me, it was at that moment in time, I was like, wow, how many lives have we now changed because healthcare companies are now going to be covering both. That was a long time ago, and folks may never even realize that was an issue, but it meant a lot. It meant a lot. And I can give you many examples along the way. In my current position as a YWCA CEO is how we responded to the rise in domestic violence, which peaked around the globe. And the fact that we didn't turn away a woman who had experienced domestic violence or her children and sometimes her pets, because we really worked hard to keep our doors open. That is something I'm very proud of. And so lots of different things.
So, I often have people say to me, well, you're only doing so much in one city or in one small area. Don't you think that has a ripple effect? I really think, I try to remind people, wait a second, but if each one of us does our part in bringing positivity and calm in this whole big country, this whole big world for that matter, don't you think that makes a change and a difference?
Without a doubt, hands down. As you said it beautifully. Imagine if everyone could contribute in a very intentional manner. This world would be very different. To believe that it's somebody else's responsibility, or that's the elected officials that should be doing it, or that's beyond my pay grade when I hear it sometimes. We all have a role to play. And until we recognize that and embrace that and execute on that, it'll be very hard because we just can't abscond from our responsibility. It's in front of us. It starts at home, without a doubt, but government is not an entity outside and foreign to us. We are government, right? We are the ones who really keep government accountable and keep government and elected officials working with us, not for us, but with us.
100%. Okay, that leads me into my last question. That is, what advice would you give the next generation of female leaders?
Oh, wow. And they're already here. It's not like it's a generation that's coming up. It's already here. And that is, to be able to continue to work towards making systemic changes. This issue of pay gap should have been addressed long ago, and we still see how women are paid much less than their male counterparts. How do we address that? Making sure that they work together, that they celebrate one another, which is already happening. You're seeing the change, how women are celebrating each other. But most importantly, that we continue to work in spaces where not many of our voices are heard. In the STEM field and in public life, as CEOs of nonprofit, as CEO of for-profit, we definitely need to continue the representation, because I'm still pained when I see the first woman to do X. We're in 2021. We should have overcome that, but still there are so many spaces where women are not represented. So definitely, let's continue to work together and celebrate one another wherever and whenever, and to lift each other up, because right now women are hurting. You've heard it through the New York Times. We're calling this moment in time the she session, because it's the first time that this recession is really anchored around women. So there's a lot of work that we need to do for women and on behalf of women, as well as with women. So it's exciting. It's an exciting moment. And I'm so happy that you're having this podcast, because you're definitely teasing out the issues that are impacting women, especially as we reach those areas of the pinnacles of professions.
Well, Alejandra, you are so encouraging. And for that, thank you, because it's true. Not everyone takes the time and effort, and you're so intentional about that. And the role that you're serving right now today really exemplifies that in your whole path. So thank you for that. I would love to hear more about what you're doing another time and how I can help you, because I really do believe in what you're doing, and I love your passion for people, for women, but also for just people. I'm really encouraged by you today. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. And
thank you, Rebecca.
We will talk soon. Take care.
We shall.
Thank you.
Now that was powerful. We hope you've been lifted and encouraged by today's inspiring voice. Always remember that life doesn't look exactly the same for each one of us. Never stop dreaming, striving, and thriving. In future episodes, we look forward to bringing you powerful stories from amazing women who learn how to lead in to challenges. Thank you for listening and being part of our community with SheEO host, Rebecca Jones.
You have been listening to a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands. Find more stories at cloudcast.us.